Hi guys, welcome to Rossi Audio and another video. Today I'm going to talk about Cerwin-Vega prices. There has been a discussion going on and is still ongoing in most Cerwin-Vega groups on Facebook. Um, a lot of people are kind of like complaining about how high the prices on Cerwin-Vega models have become, and there is a lot of misunderstanding out there when it comes to the prices. So I'm going to take what has been and what is right now and where we're going. Um, I can start with saying that about two and a half, maybe 3 years ago, I indicated several times that Cerwin-Vega prices, and I'm talking about the vintage stuff, the old school Cerwin-Vega, would go up in price. I said that many times, that we will see a spike in the prices. And it has happened. I back then said you can expect a price hike or a price increase on used Cerwin-Vega around 20 to 25%. I was very wrong because the prices has gone up somewhere between 50 and 100%, depending on certain models and which model it is. Some models have even gone up more. I was looking at what was the median sales price, the average sales price for certain models like 4 years ago, and what they sell for today. And the price increase on those models are as high as 160%. So will it continue to go up? Yes. Why? Well, many reasons for that, guys. Let's start with what has been, okay? Cerwin-Vega has always been artificially low priced for most people. And for most models. Certain models, yes, have had a high price, but then again, they have also followed the trend and are going up. But in the past, Cerwin-Vega has always been priced too low. Um, I'm not saying that that was a bad thing, but it was, market is like demand and supply and all that stuff. And you had a lot of buyers that took advantage of low prices and didn't say much about it. And then you had sellers who were not very educated or didn't know what they had and they sold it cheap. We can compare Cerwin-Vega to other brands when it comes to sales. And if we take brands like Electro Voice, Altec, JBL, Klipsch, Tannoy, uh, and a lot of other brands. If you look at the history of those brands, price wise, and what they've been selling for, you can see that they started way earlier to go up in price because the demand was there. And as soon as you got a bigger demand and there became a pressure in the market for that product, sellers saw that and they raised their prices and they raised their prices. And that has been going on for 25, 30, 40 years for those brands. So today, when you have to go out and you want to buy a pair of JBL speakers, let's say that, depending on the model, but a lot of the JBL models that are sought after by collectors, you have to pay somewhere between $4,000 and $40,000 for the pair. Something that in the 60s and 70s and maybe 80s, you paid half or one third of that. But because of the pressure in the market, those prices went up really fast. The problem with that is when that happens to brands like JBL, Altec, Electro Voice, Jensen, and all these brands, it comes to a point where only a certain portion of the buyer's market can afford it and are willing to pay it. But there's still a huge market for it and people are buying them. But then you have the other half or one third or two third of people who are not willing to pay those prices, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 and up. So they're starting to look for other brands. And the other brands can be Snell, Boston Acoustic, Cerwin-Vega, and other brands. And they start buying those brands, and then you see the same thing happen there. The prices goes up and up and up and up, and you have this circle going. When it comes to Cerwin-Vega and their part, there is many factors why the prices on Cerwin-Vega the last 2 years especially has gone up as much as it has, because there is a bigger pressure in the market for those speakers. There's more buyers than there is sellers. And when the sellers see this, they price it accordingly. And when as long as people are willing to pay it, that's going to establish a new average median sales price. Why is there such a pressure on Cerwin-Vega right now? Well, there's many reasons. Not many, but you could probably count them on one hand, but let's say there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 good reasons for it. 1, there's a bigger demand. 2, you have, because of the bigger demand, people are willing to spend more. And 3, groups like us, this group and the Cerwin-Vega fan group and other Cerwin-Vega groups, are putting a focus on the interest and the hobby and the brand. So of course I am a part of it, because I made a blue book value thing, and I set prices not low. I didn't go low on it because that's what I feel it's coming, and that's what I feel it's worth, and that's what I feel it should be worth. Because Cerwin-Vega has over so many years been priced too low. So we are coming. We're following the trend that the other brands did 20-25 years ago is now happening to Cerwin-Vega. So the groups that we are in and talking to each other, and is it worth this? Is it worth that? And I give advice on my opinion. I said, yes, let's take AT15 for instance. 4 years ago, you could buy a pair of those for 100, 150, $200 without a problem. Today they range between 500 and 800, and they sell. And I have always said, if you can get it for 300 to 500, buy it. So I'm also to blame maybe because of this. But so you have market, the demand in the market is one thing, and the willingness of the people to pay for it is another thing, and the interest groups like us on Facebook has also contributed to raise the prices. But there's also another thing, and we have kind of like in a slow way educated other people that maybe was doubters or haters in the past, that hey, Cerwin-Vega sound okay, they sounds good. And a lot of these haters and skeptic people, and that was doubtful in the past, who bought a pair of speakers, they go like, wow, this sounds good. I see it all the time. I see it every day on every group and every forum. So, and then you have those people who buy them and say, oh, this sounds good. And then they go like, maybe I should recap my crossover. And they recap the crossover, and they get a totally new experience. And all these positive things that are happening, and we're getting more people that are willing to buy Cerwin-Vega that didn't buy Cerwin-Vega in the past. Of course, you're creating a whole new market. There's a bigger market out there, and these are the people that are maybe not willing to spend $2,500, $3,000 or $4,000, or in some cases $10,000 and $15,000 on JBL and Altec and Electro Voice and Jensen and Klipsch and all this. So they're looking for other brands, and Cerwin-Vega is a natural brand for them to look at, among others. Also, another reason is Gibson and Cerwin-Vega today. The way they have priced their new products makes it more interesting for people to buy the older stuff. Because when you have to pay $1,000 for a pair of XLS 15 or almost $1,700 for XLS 215, then people go like, you know, they're not that great. They sound okay, but they're not that great. They sound okay. But they want something, they want that Cerwin-Vega sound, but they're not willing to spend $1,700 on a pair of XLS 215 or $1,000, $998 for XLS 15. So they're looking for other options, and the other option is that you can go and buy a pair of SL 15 for roughly $600-700. But it's a little bit to do with made in China, not that great sound quality, not as good as the old stuff. So people go like, old school is better than the new. So why should I pay $900 or $750, $800 for a pair of speakers new when they're not that great? They're okay, but I can get a better sounding vintage one that cost me $400, $500, $600. I pay less than the new one, but I get better sound. So people are willing to stretch the price up to get the older stuff. And another thing is, and this goes for brands that has a very, very good foundation for repairs, okay? You can see it on JBL, you can see it on Jensen, you can see it on all these brands, L-Tech. They have a good source of spare parts, and so does Cerwin-Vega. There is aftermarket parts for Cerwin-Vega, and you have original parts for Cerwin-Vega floating around on the internet. So it doesn't have to cost you an arm and a leg to get them up and running if there's something wrong with them. However, you can also see a price hike on spare parts these days, and that's just a natural thing that happens because the spare parts prices follows the trend when it comes to the complete speaker. And you see that on JBL and Altec and Jensen and Electro Voice as well, because if you have a vintage JBL and you need a woofer for it, sometimes you have to pay $500 to $800, maybe more, for just one woofer. But then again, that speaker set sells for like $5-6 grand. And so that's what have happened with Cerwin-Vega over the last 2 to 3 years, is that we're catching up on the other brands. We're going from being artificially low priced and suppressed to a low level to now getting up to a level where the prices are real and should be. These times is where it should be according to the times we are in now. Will the prices go up in the future? That's the big thing, because if you buy a pair of AT15 right now, well, let's take it this way. If you bought a pair of AT15 4 years ago for $150-200, you can turn around and flip them today for, if they're in good condition, for anywhere between $500 and $800, and you will probably get it. So if you buy it today, will the investment be as good as it was when you bought it back for $200 or $150? Yes, because I see that the most models of the big box speakers, like the D series, the AT series, the VS, the LS, the RE, the DX, and all these big box speakers, they will not stop where they are now at $500 to $800. I suspect and I predict right now that within 2 to 3 years from now, you will see a median average sales price for, let's say, the AT15, the D9, the DX9, the VS150, and the RA38 go up another 50 to 60%. So I would not be surprised if you 3 years from now have to pay somewhere between $800 and $1,200 for the pair for AT15. It will come. Trust me, it is coming. So buying it today for $500 will be even a better investment than buying it for $200 back in the day, because let's face it, $200 to $500 is a $300 profit. That's good. But if you buy it for $500 today and you can sell it for $1,000 3 years down the road, that's a $500 profit. So, is that the average that will go up? No. There's other models that will go even up more. We're talking about the 70s model here and the early 80s, before the big box speakers came into the market. There are certain models from Cerwin-Vega that you can see already are fetching $2,000 or more. And models like the Vega 500, the last pair I saw selling, sold for $6,800. And they sold like in a day on Craigslist. I called the seller, he listed it. When I called him, it said it had been listed for 24 hours or something, one day. And when I called him, he had already sold them a couple of hours ago, but he hadn't had time to delete the listing. So that tells you that was $6,800 for the pair. They will probably go up, and I'm not surprised if you in 3 years from now, if you can find it, a pair of Vega 500s, I am not surprised if the price is 10 grand or more. Because that will be in the same realm as the Paragon and from JBL and the Metrogon and all that stuff. It is that special. Even more special because there was made way more of the JBL and the Cerwin-Vega. So that one will just keep on going up. What other models would be the big ones that jump in price? Well, like I said, all the HED models from the 70s will go up a lot. The ones I have behind the camera here, it's HED, the V8s. I bought them for $225, I think it was, including shipping. And they are now selling for $600. And that's just a bookshelf speaker, two-way with an 8-inch. Their big brother, the V10, sells for $1,000. If you're lucky enough to find the V12, they will fetch you about $1,200 to $1,300. So you see, all of these prices are just following the market. So if you are stuck in the past and you think $200 is the way it should be, and that's what you should pay for AT15 or other speakers, you will not get another pair. You might hit a straggler here and there that doesn't know what they have and they just want to get rid of it, and you might be lucky and make a deal and get a pair for $250, maybe $300. But the days are over when that was the average sales price. Just accept it. That's the only way we can do it. I felt bad when I saw this happening because I was thinking like, shit, now I can't buy them for a good price. But then I'm thinking like, well, look at what they're selling for. If I can get a pair of AT15 for $300 or $400, $500, $600, that's a great deal. Because I know that down the road they will be selling for $900 to $1,000, maybe $1,100. 3 years from now, guaranteed. Because you see it on the spare parts as well. If you go on eBay, and this is a very appointing thing. If you go on eBay and you look up Cerwin-Vega and you go through the list and you look at spare parts like woofers that have been parted out, tweeters, mid-ranges that have been parted out, look at those prices. I mean, the woofers are selling from somewhere between $150 to $250, $300. And certain models, and the reason I'm talking about the AT15 is because it was one of the most selling models in recent times. They sold a bunch of them. But still, they're not that common to see for sale. And the thing is, if something happens to the woofer, if you have to recone your woofer on the AT15, you can go and get aftermarket kits, no problem. But the ripples in the cone will not be there. And a lot of people want to have the ripples. So if you can find a woofer online that has the original cone and only need a rephone, guess what's going to happen? A lot of people is going to show interest for that woofer, and the seller sees it. He revises his listing. He bumps the price up maybe 40, 50, 60 bucks, and you end up paying, let's say, 200 bucks, 199 or 200 bucks for it. Next time another seller comes along and do a eBay search on sold items, and he see, oh, that woofer sold 2 months ago for 199 or 199.99, but there's no one else for sale. I'm going to put mine at 249. And guess what? There is at least, at any given time, at least 40 or 50 or 60 or 100 people who needs that woofer badly, that do not want to recone their woofer because you lose the original cone. And guess what? One of those guys, one of those 40, 50, 60 guys are going to buy it for 249, and that sets a new precedent. So when the third guy comes along, let's say 3 or 4 months later, and he does the same shit, he looks up what sold in the past, he sees 199, he says 249, and then he goes, I bet you I can get 269 or 279. And before we know it, we are at a level where JBL and Altec Lansing and Jensen and Electro Voice are today, where you pay sometimes $500 to $1,500 for a woofer. Certain Altec woofers goes for a couple of thousands each. So it is a natural process, guys. Nothing to cry about, nothing to worry about. And if you don't want to buy it, if you don't want to buy a pair of Cerwin-Vegas for $500-600, then don't. There's someone else who will. And if you don't buy it today, you have to pay more for it next year or the year after. So if you want it, buy it now. Because if you don't, you're going to miss out, because it's going to go up and up and up. So the longer you wait, the more you have to pay. That's all I had to say.